Hello everybody, this is Gregory with Permanent Weight Loss Made Easy, where there should be no hesitancy in your weight loss and in your weight maintenance. Today we're going to continue this series on ultra-processed foods and talk about frozen foods. Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my website, which has hundreds of articles and recipes, my 2 books, which you can find on Amazon, my podcast, The Awakened Man, which is on health topics, my other podcast, The Cinema Rag, which is on movies. Lastly, if you appreciate my content, there's a link for credit card donation. All right, so we're continuing this series on ultra-processed foods. I think this is part 3. And before I really go down the middle aisle foods, I wanted to cover a section that maybe people forget. A lot of people love frozen foods. And what are the problems with frozen foods? We actually have an episode here we've done earlier on the main problems of frozen foods. The main problem is that for them to stay frozen and to stay fresh, they're shot up with a lot of toxic preservatives, namely sodium nitrate, sodium nitrite, which are a salt-based preservative. This is why when you look on the back of frozen pizzas or Hot Pockets or whatever it is, your macaroni and cheese, you're going to see an insanely high amount of salt. Now, the USDA, the FDA have kind of lowered the restriction on salt because we used to believe that you really need to lower your salt intake of high blood pressure. So they've eased on that, so now you can have a little more salt. But if you look at the back of the salt of let's say just a regular frozen entree, cheese enchilada frozen entree, it's over 100% of your salt intake. And that's just salt intake. We're not even looking at the toxic effects of sodium nitrate, sodium nitrite, which we know increases your chances of getting colorectal cancer when we see it in processed meats. The other problem, though, with frozen food is that, of course, they mark up the price. It's expensive, right? It's for the convenience of it being frozen. But a lot of it is just ultra-processed foods. If you look at probably the most popular of ultra-processed foods that are frozen, be pizzas. Pizza, we don't really think about it as being ultra-processed, but it largely is, because you look at, we talked about in the first episode, wheat is ultra processed. You're not getting any of the bran that comes from the wheat. It's all processed out. And then if you look at cheese, there's such a thing as processed cheese. Typically, especially if you're buying the low grade Hot Pockets or the pizza bagels or any of those kind of cheesy pizza-esque appetizers, you're not getting high quality cheese. You're getting processed crap cheese. And then you're getting ultra-refined pizza sauce, which is normally going to be some sort of tomato base and then with a lot of sugar. And then, of course, they shoot in tons and tons and tons of preservatives, regardless of the toppings that you're getting in that food. What else is very common in the frozen section would be frozen orange juice. We've already talked about in the previous episode. That's a processed food. And you look at all the other frozen concoctions. You look at the fish section, you look at French fries. French fries are potatoes, so those are not necessarily considered to be ultra processed, but they are fried and they can be problematic. But you look at the chicken nuggets, you look at the frozen fish, not always, because some of them they're actually frozen fish fillets, which are fine. But many times, especially the cheaper stuff, you're going to be getting processed chicken. Yes, there is processed chicken, there's processed fish. They just ground up the leftover remnants and they put it in a machine and they put it into molds. They fill it into molds to make them look like fish burgers or chicken burgers, which are commonly sold like in hospitals and in cafeterias. So that's a problem. You look at the cheap ice cream. The cheap ice cream is just another ultra-processed food. It's just a lot of preservatives, sugar, and some cream. Now, if you're buying the quality ice creams, they're less ultra-processed, but even then they're a problem. So if you look at a lot of the frozen foods, they're problematic in that a lot of them are just fake foods. The food scientists hit the bliss point on them to make them addictive, like those little pizza bites. You can just throw in your mouth, and they need to be problematic. So if you're going to do frozen foods, I would do frozen vegetables, of course. Those are typically fine because they're just going to be those vegetables and they're not shot up with anything. Frozen fruits like frozen blueberries, that's going to be fine as well. And really, that's pretty much about it. If you look what else that they put in the frozen section, you're going to have whipped cream like Cool Whip. Now you look at Eskimo pies and ice cream sandwiches. These are just all ultra processed, high sugar, high bad fat crap, and they need to be avoided. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. There are organic options that are in the frozen section, like for organic entrees and so forth, that will not have sodium nitrate, and the sodium nitrate, they're even listed on there. They won't be GMO. But as a whole, the best rule of thumb when it comes to frozen foods is just get frozen vegetables and frozen fruit. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.